Hello and welcome to part 2 of drawing from reference. Anyway, alright, so this is Neil from ipaintgirls.com. A lot more free tutorials on my website, so check out the link in the description. And this is part 2 of how to draw from reference. So, one thing I noticed is her head is slightly tilted. So, instead of like trying to redraw the head and everything, I already got pretty much the size of the head and everything is here in some basic way. So I'm just going to take the head and tilt it just a bit. About like so. Right, so we see here that everything is kind of enlarged and so forth, and notice her hand comes down a little bit further. So these are just little things I pay attention to as I'm working on something like this from reference, and so I'm constantly rechecking everything I draw with the references just to make sure. What color was I? I think I was using some color like this. Doesn't really matter. Kind of pull the line down like that. Kind of come up a little bit. Some of the wrist will kind of come forward like this. You might be able to see just some of it, but all this right here will be in shadow. Then you can kind of see she has a shirt on in the back, like a short top back there. And it just kind of covers part of that breast there, and it comes this way and it starts to cover part of that breast. And you can kind of see some of the breast in here. So one thing I think that people are often afraid to do is when they're doing weird foreshortening is to actually draw the arm coming out all thick, even though you know it comes thin, because you know the arm gets thinner as it comes toward, as it comes towards the wrist, it gets thinner, but when it comes at us sometimes that doesn't happen. It looks weird, and I think sometimes people are probably afraid to draw it like that because it looks weird, but it's how it looks from that particular angle. So I'm just slowly building up my line work here and there. Give my brain a chance to like really look at what I'm drawing. This might be a little bit bigger, a little bit wider thumb. Dang it, I really need to get my drivers, different drivers for this damn thing. Because that's starting to happen too often now. Okay, so I'm probably going to have to go to a size 3 here. Just going to kind of come out a little bit like this. Has a slight shape like that. So if I follow this line all the way across, you can see that this actually starts a little bit lower. So it's always good to go back and measure, make sure, okay, I'm not going too high or too low. The dip of the leg begins right about here. This comes down a little bit farther, but doesn't come all the way down to this line here. This comes down about this far, just like this. And this actually dips down, the finger there. It dips down past all this here, past the finger, into this line here, comes around, and just goes a little bit above that line over there. We have our love handle, which is right here, and all that side comes down. So I'm just kind of erase some of this. Bring that side down here, something like that for now. It's actually not quite that dramatic, it's more like this. Like that. So there's more fat on the body over there. Not that she's fat, she just has more fat in the body right there. That makes it not curve or her. this comes down a little bit past here. So really, it's just a matter of trying to match up everything as you see it with measuring, though, because sometimes you can't just rely on your brain the way it sees things, because sometimes your brain will see things too big or too small, and then you'll start drawing them that way. So you have to basically learn how do I get good at drawing what I see. And the best way to learn how to get good at drawing and learn how to see is to do measurements. And see this leg right here, I know the knee comes down to there, right? So this right here should be the knee, and it's weird because you're like, okay, how am I going to fit all that leg into that small space? And it's because it's being foreshortened, greatly foreshortened. And that's sometimes it's strange to draw, and that should be a lot wider. That sometimes it's strange to draw. Your mind just doesn't want to comprehend it that way because it knows it's longer, and like it's almost like your mind plays tricks on you. And so if you don't do a measurement there, you might end up drawing it way too big. But if you know the area in which it fits in, then it's like, okay, so I know it fits into that area like that. Then you can fit it when you fit it into the proper space, then you're able to draw those shapes correctly. Alright, now this forward leg, this leg has to come back far enough, and I might even be able to make it a little bit longer than that. But before I do that, I just want to make sure that this leg has the proper angle. So this leg is coming down to an angle over here. And don't feel bad about having to kill what you've done. What I mean by that is, notice she has some fat around her legs here, and you can tell because the shorts are tight enough to pull, and the leg is coming out like this. It's protruding outside just a little tad bit. I just want to make sure I get the if this muscle, this other muscle comes around this way. I know the knee is going to come down here, so I'm going to put the knee in there, loosely draw in these shapes here, very lightly and loosely, because I don't know if I'm going to be doing it correctly or not. So I'm also pay attention to this negative space here, and so I know that this is like that, comes like that a little bit, and I'm going to have this a little bit closer right here, so the leg will be a little bit wider. And it comes around the leg like this, and it kind of dips around. Oops! It actually shows the shape of the leg there, how the muscles are shaped. It's actually good that she's wearing shorts right there, because otherwise you wouldn't really be able to see that shape of the leg. Sometimes when you're drawing superheroes and stuff, it's good because the costume, when you design a costume, you can kind of design it to accentuate the shapes of the leg, different body parts, by the way the lines go across it. So this is a timely process, and so I want to make sure I'm really paying attention to that negative space there, and so I know to get that kind of same shape, it should probably be even smaller in here. So this right here should be a little bit thicker, because the other side's already thick enough. That kind of comes out a little bit, so I'm going to just kind of erase all that. The leg comes out a little bit like that. It comes down here. It comes here, and then has the kneecap again down that area. You could do a lot more measurements if you really want to. It's really up to you how many measurements you do. Like you can do horizontal measurements and stuff too. Like just kind of go, okay, this is how long it is, and then measure over here. You can use the ruler tool or something, or you can just draw it on another layer and bring it over. like, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. You go like this and go, okay, well, just want to make sure it's about the same width. And I might have gone a little bit thick, so if I wanted to correct that, I could. I can be like, okay, I went a little bit thick, so I'm going to kind of pull it on this side a little bit. Kind of follow that same line, but just make it a little bit thinner. Like that. I'm going to draw this line all the way across so you can see how far the kneecap kind of dips down right here. And that right there, the angle that comes at. Now, the next thing I want to do is make sure that this is high enough, this calf muscle starts high enough as it comes down and around into this area here. I pay attention to how far it goes above the line and below the line to kind of get that shape the way I want it, the way it appears in the photo. Notice that little trick I have right there in the foot. It just helps draw the three-dimensionality of the foot, I think. The foot comes all the way down here. I'm just going to kind of rough in where the toes would be. And kind of like the shape of the foot there. And that back of the heel. Like so. I'm going to draw this out further this time, because I can actually get a little bit longer with this. And it is going behind that leg over there. I can come down further with this shape here. Bring the foot out not as much as I had last time. And it comes out behind over there. So now it's all starting to look pretty accurate now. And once you have this kind of accuracy down for the sketch, then you can go in and start adding the greater details. So you might want to pull a line for the hairline just so you have a good idea of where it's all going to be. Top of the head, that the hair comes up here. And if you wanted to, you can even do the same thing with the head, just to make sure you got a general. If you hold down shift and drag, you can't go up or down. It drags in that perfect straight line. And so I got that pretty dead on. So, but sometimes it's good to measure where everything's at. So to capture likeness, I'd really have to get a lot bigger. I'd have to blow up my sketch. But before I blow my sketch up, I want to make sure everything is at least in proper place. Eyes are quite tiny on a head, something that it's easy to make too big, or bigger than it appears. Because at first the eyes appear larger because of everything else around them, like the eyebrows and the makeup, and then the lower and upper lid, and that little cuticle over there that comes out, that little piece of skin, whatever that's called. Just gonna kind of rough in the area for here. And then the middle of her lips, just gonna rough that in. Maybe a little bit of the bottom lip. And I can kind of run lines to make sure, see, that's not right. So her nose is a little bit longer than I anticipated. This right here is about where her lip is, the middle of her mouth. And so the nose is just a little bit higher than that. You can even run another line, from the bottom of the nose if you wanted to, and there we go. So I'm just double checking to make sure I nailed that one. It felt like I did, but I wanted to make sure. That ear over there is not visible at all. Just about out of time. So unfortunately I wasn't able to accomplish much more than I did last time, so but you can see how that process goes. It's really the same thing for the face, that you just look at the face and look at the face. And that would actually, to get the face, I would rather show portrait drawing, because it's kind of a different thing. It's the face is something all in itself. Thank you for